All right. We are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have another great live. I know nobody's here yet, but we're just going to jump right into it. No sense in waiting around. If you miss any of this, just go back and start from the beginning. I'm Nick Barker. Today, we have a fantastic topic that we're going to cover: private lending and notes. Now, if you're interested in diversifying your retirement portfolio or using alternative strategies with a self-directed IRA, this is a great session for you. As always, we encourage any questions throughout the webinar. Feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll address them toward the end, if not immediately. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to get into this topic. First and foremost, Ben, thank you for joining us, our expert on private lending and notes.
Thanks, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk about private lending and note and one of the more underutilized things you can do in a self-directed IRA.
Absolutely. I mean, private lending is becoming more popular. Obviously, loans have always been a thing, but for the longest time, but now more people that aren't necessarily, multimillionaires and billionaires can get into this. So it's becoming more popular, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of people that aren't familiar with its potential, especially when we talk about within a self-directed IRA. So to kick things off, Ben, can you give us a basic overview? What exactly is private lending?
Private lending, as it says, is the definition says, or as you can tell, it's basically just investing in private people. So basically what that means is you have someone that needs to have some money, whether they're starting a new business, whether they've bought a property and they need to fix it up, they need capital, they need money. What you can do is basically be the bank. You can be the person that is lending funds to real estate investors, to private companies. Just like with being a bank, you have an interest rate, you have collateral, you have a return on your investment. So you're basically entering into a loan with a private individual with a rate of return. And the advantage to that is all of the gains and taxes are obviously tax deferred. So there's a lot of great benefits to having a self-directed IRA investing in private lending.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, rather than just being a passive investor like you are with, say, stocks or mutual funds, you're getting directly involved. You're, as you said, becoming the bank and you're lending to others. So, I mean, on the upside here of doing this investment, or what I think about is, well, man, what kind of returns can you expect here? I mean, what are your thoughts or comments there as far as like the returns that you can expect with, say, private lending?
Obviously, the returns are going to vary depending on the level of risk. On average, if you're looking at doing a private loan, it's probably going to be between 6 to 12%. If you're looking at more at the 6 to 8% range, you're looking at a loan that is maybe a little bit more secured or it's got less risk to it. So if you're messing with a company, specifically a large company who you know is going to pay back the loan, they may give you a lower interest rate, 6 to 7%. But if you're investing with someone who is investing in real estate and you're going to be a private money lender, this person needs some money to fix up the property and there's no collateral attached, then they may give you 12 to 15%. So they're going to be higher interest rates depending on the level of risk. But it's just going to depend on what your needs are and what you feel comfortable doing. But I would expect between 6 to 12% on average.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned depending on risk, right? So again, that kind of gets me spinning here and goes, okay, well, what are the risks? What should investors watch out for when getting involved in private lending?
There are a bunch of different things. The first thing we talked about, which I've hinted to, is collateral. What I mean by collateral is if the person defaults on the mortgage, will you be getting anything from the default? So, in a piece of property, if the property is collateralized and secured, If the person defaults on the note, then you take the property. And this is, most people are familiar with this that have a house. They buy a house, they have a bank that loans them the money. The bank has a secured collateral in place. If you don't pay the mortgage payment, they take the house. There also is what's called unsecured notes, where there's no security at all. And so if the person defaults on the mortgage, then obviously the note, you don't get anything out of it. So you got to be careful when you're investing in a private note that you understand those risks, that maybe you work with an attorney or a title company or a loan processing company that is able to vet these transactions to make sure that your risks are being minimized.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's finding someone to lend to is just a piece of that puzzle, a piece of that risk. Um, Now, one thing you have mentioned too is you've said the word note a couple of times. Let's talk about notes. Can you explain what a note is and maybe how it fits in with private lending?
Yep. So there's two pieces we're talking about. One is private lending, which is basically just going out there and finding someone that you want to loan money to. Your neighbor next door needs startup capital to run a business. Your neighbor next door needs money to invest in a property. But there are companies out there that actually provide note servicing processing areas where you can actually go on to their websites and you can get loans through those companies. They find the company or the individual. They make sure that the person is credible, that the note's going to be good, and you can actually purchase the note from someone else. The note's already been in place. There is an interest rate, there is a term, there is a payment schedule. So it's a note would be specifically an existing loan that is already in the industry, that you're taking over that note for whatever reason. The person wants to sell their note, or the person is just providing the in between you and the investor, so that they're basically an intermediary.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of interesting. So every lending that happens, every private lending, there's going to be a note attached, right? Because like you said, that's kind of like that's the document. But there is a way to invest in already established notes. That's kind of the distinction there, right? I mean, you get to purchase already established notes or loans.
Exactly. And the nice thing with an existing loan is you don't need to involve an attorney to draft up the documents, right? Someone's already got the documents in place, it's already
Oh,
drafted.
okay.
If you want to do a private loan with your buddy next door, you've got to create the loan document, you've got to come up with the terms, you got to make sure that the document itself is legitimate. Did you cover all of the bases on what they can and cannot do when they make their payment? So an existing note is nice because you've already dealt with an attorney that's already drafted the document and is already making sure that that document is a legitimate document.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know myself, and that for me, the note kind of, seems like the way that I would like to go if I were doing this because, like you said, I don't have to find somebody. Everything's already established, the interest, all the details. And as you mentioned, there are companies that do offer that, which is great. So that's something that actually piques my interest right now. Okay. So we've talked about private lending notes. Now, kind of mixing these together with, say, a self-directed IRA. So, what are the advantages of doing this investing with your retirement account?
There are a number of advantages. The biggest advantage, which we talk about almost every time, is retirement accounts have tax deferred treatment. What I mean by that is you do not pay taxes on any of the gains today you paid in the future. So for example, you have $100,000 in your IRA and you loan your friend $100,000 at a 10% interest rate. At the end of the year, your friend gives you back $100,000 plus an additional $10,000. That $10,000, if it was not in a retirement account, you would pay taxes on $10,000. You'd probably lose $3,000 to $5,000 in taxes. Inside of an IRA account, that $10,000 of gain gets to stay in your IRA. You can take that 10,000, reinvest it. So there's a compounding effect. You're not paying taxes today. The taxes that you're not paying today are reinvested and make more money in the future. There also is the advantage of a Roth IRA. If you're familiar with the Roth IRA, Roth IRAs pay taxes going in, they don't pay taxes going out, meaning that $10,000 gain that I just made on my Roth IRA, no taxes are paid ever. So that's one of the main advantages of be doing a self-directed IRA. Now, compounding that with private lending, the nice thing with private lending is you can get anywhere between 6 to 12% in interest rate. If you were to just go out and do a CD, CDs are actually pretty good right now. They're at 4 to 5%, but you can get upwards of 10 to 12%. And a CD is basically the same thing as a loan. You're giving the bank money that they're going to be able to use, and they're giving you an interest rate back. In this case, you're getting a higher interest rate than you would in getting a CD.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a big advantage. I mean, not only the interest that you're making, but then on top of it, the taxes you're not paying. So double, compounding thing there. Now there is some hesitancy or maybe some drawbacks potentially of using your retirement account to invest in general, and specifically with private lending. So, what would be some of the disadvantages that you need to know before going into this when you're using your self-directed IRA?
The first thing I would look at is the person you're investing in. Is it a credited person? Do you trust the person? Do you trust the company? Do your research behind the person or the company. Secondly, is I would start small. I wouldn't start out with $100,000 and loan someone $100,000 unless you are collateralizing the property, or sorry, the loan. If the loan is being collateralized and you know that you can get something in return if they default, then higher dollar amounts may make sense. If it's non-secured, no collateral, then you need to be hesitant. And I do not recommend large dollar amounts unless you see a track record of them making the payments. The second thing you need to be aware of is, and we've talked about this multiple times, you cannot invest with related parties. A related party is yourself, your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren. So if you want to loan money out, great, but you could not loan it to a child. That would be disqualified. And that's where, when we talk about AccuPlan and why use AccuPlan, AccuPlan has the experience and the knowledge to discuss with you the do's and don'ts, what you can and cannot do in an IRA. So I would say contact us if you want to know if something is disqualified or not.
Well, and to that point, I mean, we have talked about this in past live events as far as self-directed IRA specifically, and the rules pertaining to self-directed IRAs. Go back, watch some of those videos, some of those lives on our YouTube if you're wanting to know more specifics, or like Ben said, you can contact us. Now, that also does bring up the point of, AccuPlan. AccuPlan obviously does retirement investing. So why would you say, Ben, if there's somebody that's actually thinking, oh, I would love to do this with my retirement account. I would love to do private lending. I'd love to go find a note somewhere. Or even if it's something, like you said, maybe smaller that they don't, this is maybe sounds too tricky right now for them. Maybe they just want to go and, put a couple $1,000s into cryptocurrency or precious metals, whatever it may be. What are the steps that they need to take to get to that next level to start investing with their retirement accounts if they're not doing that, or to do private placements? Sorry,
I would
private
say
lending.
Yeah, I would say obviously the first thing is to contact us. Nick will put my information up on the screen, but you can always call me, or you can email me, you can text me. That's the best way to just initiate the conversation. If you're already ready to go, I already know I want to do private lending. I think it's a great option. I want to use AccuPlan. You can go directly to our website, accuplan.net, and there's a get started button. You click get started, and in 5 minutes, you will have an account created. So it's a very quick process to get started. If you have questions about what you can and cannot do, we're going to be there to help you and advise you on that. Once you've created an account, we will help you transfer the money from your existing custodian to our company, and then we'll help you with the private funding. Obviously, as a custodian, we don't necessarily recommend or endorse specific people, meaning that you can use any company that you want. But I would go out there and research it. Google private lending, Google hard money loans, those types of things. You'll find companies out there that offer these services. And we would be happy to work with any of these companies in the self-directed realm and helping you set up an account.
Yeah. And to be honest, like there's uh, a wide range of pricing that other companies charge. And, we're a very, very competitive, piece of that puzzle. Like we stand on our pricing. One, we've been here longer than probably 90 to 95% of all other companies that do this self-directed investing. We've been here a long time. We've talked about before, um, the employees at AccuPlant. I'm one of the least tenured employees, and I've been here over 10 years. So uh, with time comes a lot of knowledge. So specifically, Ben, you've been here probably, I don't even, is it 20 years? Is it like,
Over
it's been a
20,
minute.
probably 22. Yep.
Yeah. And you've probably got asked just about every question in the book. And so one, he can answer those questions right away. And if there's not an answer that we know or that Ben doesn't know, look, he's done this enough that he knows how to find the answers pretty dang quickly. So we have the knowledge and expertise, and we're at a really good price. So that's what I would say on top of what Ben said. This is now the time where we jump into questions. I don't think there are any questions at the moment. If you do have a question, feel free to write one in there. It can be specifically right now about private lending and notes, or it can be anything pertaining to self-directed IRAs. So any question you may have, throw them in there. If not, I will, first say that I think it's been a good session. Thanks, Ben, for sharing your expertise on private lending and notes. I'm sure our viewers have a lot to think about and maybe even a new investment strategy to explore. Who knows? To those that are here listening, thank you for tuning in. If you have more questions, again, I have on the screen Ben's contact information, our website. Feel free to reach out to us through any of those forums and, ask any questions pertaining to, private lending and notes, or even just self-directed IRAs. But we're here. We're happy to help you through this process. We'll be back soon. Don't forget about that. We'll do more of these lives where you can jump back in, listen to what we have to talk about. And we've done past ones. You can always go back and listen to those too. So remember, subscribe so you can get those updates for our next live. But at the end of the day, thanks for joining us here. Ben, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody.